Hi, I'm Leon, and I am once again experimenting with microalgae. I am back in the lab today, and I have actually been here for the past hour and a half just testing samples from our experiment because I got a little bit behind while I was away over March break. I actually want to give a quick shout out to my mom who was able to collect samples for me while I was away on March break since I wasn't able to do it myself. And she saved all the samples for me in all of these vials here. And I've been testing them for the past hour and a half, almost 2 hours now. And I am finally on the last test of my experiment. About a couple days ago, I collected the final samples from my experiment, the last ones I'm going to be doing, the 20th samples actually. And they're in these 3 vials here. I'm going to be testing them for nitrate and for phosphate. And well, this might be the very last time I end up doing something like this, so I wanted to vlog it. So as usual, first thing I'm going to do is put the sample into these 2 vials. Now, because I got some more vials with my phosphate kit, I'm actually able to test nitrate and phosphate at the same time for one of my samples. So first I'm going to start by putting 1 milliliter of sample into each vial. And now I'm going to add 9 milliliters of distilled water to the vials as usual. So the next thing I'm going to do is add reagents to each of these vials. This one over here is going to be nitrate and this one's going to be phosphate. I'm going to be adding different reagents to both, which will turn them different colors. So first thing I'm going to do is get the reagent out for nitrate, cut that open. And I'm going to pour it into this vial. And now I'm going to get the reagent for phosphate. I'm going to pour it into this vial. And now, I'm going to give both a good shake for about 2 minutes. Here we go. All right, so I'm done shaking these vials. And this is where it gets a little bit complex. I'm going to be starting a 7-minute timer on my computer. And essentially what needs to happen is this nitrate test needs to sit for 7 minutes, and this phosphate test needs to sit for 3 minutes. So at 3 minutes, I'm going to use this zeroing vial to zero this phosphate meter, and then I'm going to be able to test this sample. And then I'll use the same zero sample to zero the nitrate meter after 7 minutes and test this sample. So I will see you in 3 minutes and then again in 7 minutes. Alright, so the 3 minutes are almost up. So I'm going to zero this test kit first. Zeroing now. And now I can add in my phosphate sample, the one that's actually going to be tested, and hit the button on that. And I'm getting a number of 0.36. And now my nitrate timer is almost up, so I'm going to zero the nitrate meter. Here we go. And now I can do my final nitrate test for bioreactor 1. .4. Okay, so when I plug 7.4 into my spreadsheet, I get out that bioreactor 1, the final value in there, was 9.3 milligrams per liter of nitrate, which is a fantastic number because it's exactly what I wanted from my experiment to get below 10 milligrams per liter of nitrogen nitrate in my bioreactor. So that's fantastic. Next thing I'm going to do is do the same thing with vials number 2 and vial number 3, each representing bioreactor 2 and bioreactor 3 respectively. And we'll see how those numbers go as well. So now I'm going to do the same tests, but with the vial with bioreactor 2 in it. And I'm just going to do a little time lapse, I guess, of what it's going to look like to take all those tests. So here we go. So I've prepared the samples and I've already waited the 3 minutes for the phosphate sample, so I'm going to zero this meter now. And now I'm going to drop in the phosphate sample. Here we go. Final phosphate sample for bioreactor 2. 0.12. Now, if I plug that into my spreadsheet, I'm going to get a number that tells me that there are 0.3 milligrams per liter of phosphorus in bioreactor 2. So that's pretty cool. So these 7 minutes are close to up, so I'm going to zero the nitrate meter now, as I did before. And now, final nitrate test for bioreactor 2. Here we go. Value of 3.8. Let me plug that into my spreadsheet quickly. Here we go, 3.8. And that comes out to a final value in bioreactor 2 of 4.8 milligrams per liter of nitrogen. Way below that 10 milligram limit I was looking for, which is really great. And now I'm going to do the same thing for number 3. So it's time for the last phosphate test for bioreactor 3 now. I'm going to zero the phosphate meter. And while I'm doing that, I just want to draw your attention to how blue this phosphate sample is. The other one may have looked clear. The reagent's actually supposed to turn the phosphate sample blue, but because there was so little phosphate in the other 2 vials, this is the only one that actually turns out blue. This one has a little bit more because it started with a higher amount of phosphate in that bioreactor. So I am going to now drop this into here for the final phosphate sample I'm going to do in this experiment. What's the number we're going to get? 1.04. Let me plug that into the spreadsheet. Okay, so that's giving me a number of 2.9, really close to 3 milligrams per liter of phosphorus in bioreactor 3. Now I'm just going to wait a little bit so I can do the nitrate one. And now I can do my final nitrate test, going to zero this meter. And just like with the phosphate, this nitrate test has a much deeper red color because it has more nitrate. So I'm going to be testing that one in just a couple seconds. Testing the final nitrate test in this experiment. Here we go. $37.9. All right, let's get that in the spreadsheet. Here we go. So that's going to come out to 47.6 milligrams per liter of nitrogen as nitrate in bioreactor 3. Now that might sound like a really high number considering I was getting low numbers this whole time, but you have to remember that bioreactor 3 started with some really high concentrations for both nitrate and phosphate. I think for nitrate it was like 69, almost 70 milligrams per liter of nitrogen. So a reduction to 47, that's pretty good. So there we go. Those are probably the final nitrate and phosphate tests I'll be doing for a little bit as I'm cleaning up this experiment. That's the final ones I'm going to do. But that doesn't mean the experiment's ending. There's definitely more testing to be done. Now that the experiment's done, I need to do all my biomass measurements again, where I burn the algae and measure their dry weight biomass. So that'll be coming in the next few weeks. And if you want to see more experiment content, subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next one.